Well, hey there team, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my review in progress of New Cycle. So this is a game that's coming out in early access on 19th of January, so I've got my hands on it a little bit early. It is a city building, post-apocalyptic sort of colony type thing. Given this format, I am only playing it for the first couple of hours. It's kind of like medical triage. I just don't have enough time to review every game in their entirety, but at least through this I can give you guys a soft verdict. Save you having to buy it for 2 hours and refund it and figure it all out for yourself. So that way we can just present it and give you an idea. You should know if a game's good or not within the first 2 hours. Otherwise, maybe there's something going wrong. Also on top of that, it's early access. It's probably going to go through 15 iterations before 1.0 if it even makes it. So I think this is an appropriate amount of time to give it. The good news is, it's really good. It's really, really promising straight out of the gate. Now, I'm very, sort of bitten and shy when it comes to these kind of games because I love them. I think there is a space on the back of Frostpunk, and we're only really starting to see these games pop up, kind of hardcore colony survival come narrative game. And this definitely has a sort of narrative. Again, being at early access, I feel like it's just a smidge of what's happening, but there is a lot of interacting with your colony, sort of like, I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but like your colony being the character. There's something that should be explored more in these games, and it looks like this is gonna do just that. But yeah, like I said, Frostpunk is the gold standard. I think Ixion's in the same conversation, even though it's a little bit of a different setting in space. God, what was the other one? Homeseek came out last year, and that kind of really missed. It was mishandled. It was a shame. Kind of hurt my heart, that one. But then you've got more on the pure colony survival games. You've got things like Endzone, A World Apart, which I think is quite brilliant, but it doesn't really... Well, I'd have to go back to it, but I don't believe it had much in the way of narrative trappings. But then you've got things like Surviving the Aftermath, a huge miss. What a mess of a game. So it's a bit all over the place. Some of the greatest games you'll ever play, like I said, Frostpunk and Ixion especially, at New Cycle, if it keeps with the foundations it's laid, is on the right path to actually potentially be brilliant. This should be really interesting. Now, at first blush, watching trailers and all that, I was like, what's the big deal? It looks like Endzone, but with trains. And even in the first maybe hour, the pacing is a little bit slow. Kind of remind me a little bit of Banished. Like, you do go through the cycles of seasons, and, a lot of your stuff shuts down during winter and you have to sort of account for that. But you can already tell with the UI and all the little art elements, it's really clean. It's really considered, which is great. For me, I'm a huge stickler for UI just because, for whatever reason, second only to narrative and the inability for people to write stories, it seems that people are losing the ability to make actual cohesive UI that is player friendly. This is really good. So all the art, all the UI telegraphing is there, really quite clean and easy to read. It's got the usual trappings that you would expect, and we don't need to dwell on that, but it's doing some original things. One of the interesting things is this balance between workforce efficiency and like morale, in that you are highly incentivized to look after the quality of living of your people, because that will then have a flow-on effect at the end of a day cycle to potentially increase their work output. Happy workers are hard workers, that sort of thing. And you can massage it almost. It kind of does work like a tax system in a way, but it's more against people's exertion and morale, which I can't say I've really seen this before. And there are scenarios there where maybe you're loading people up with extra rations and you're working them less hard, and it ends up creating a net synergistic positive effect for your colony. And again, to harp on the UI and all that, the readability is really there. So if you're trying to figure out how much you want to scale up, it's just a mouse over, pop out a way to figure out how much water per day you're producing versus consuming. So it's kind of refreshing that it's doing the bare minimum properly. The kick seems to be that it's all on the back of a solar flare, which is kind of cool. I don't think I've really seen that before. And the game goes on to explore the fact that the damage it did ending the world was much more damaging to, a high-tech society than it is to us. It seems the solar flares aren't necessarily gone, and it's not apparent in this fallen society because you're a generation removed, right? It's 50 years on, so you're aware of the apocalypse, but you're not necessarily aware what caused it or what are the long-term implications it will have even on your level of living. And these things I'm saying aren't speculation. These are actually laid out in the more long-term campaign objectives that the game starts teeing up, which is probably the most interesting part, is how you interact with the colony, with the people. There's not really any named characters, but you do have talking heads pop up occasionally and come to you with problems that you need to resolve. And it is evocative of Frostpunk's Book of Laws, I suppose, but it's far less rigid and transparent, which honestly, it's really good. Dare I say, it's channeling the aspect of what can make a narrative, choose your own adventure fun, in that you don't really know what the repercussions are gonna be behind your decisions. You're just trying to make your best fit guess. Examples being, the people came to me saying they were having issues with supplies at their level potentially, and even though I'm essentially the dictator, the voiceless dude in the faceless dude in the sky, they said, hey, can we have barter rights at our level? Can we just barter interpersonally? So it's a vague, fair request, and your outcome is, okay, sure, go for it, fill your boots. Not really clear what that's going to do, or nah, state controlled everything from the go. So I let them have barter rights, and it came up in general world efficiency of my workforce. It was like a 5% hit to, not efficiency, but like output, which makes sense, I suppose. Now that you've got a sub-economic system that's not really represented, but it's almost a tax, the idea of people moving stuff around at the lowest level. And so that was really kind of cool. Like, I like that you have to make a left door, right door decision, and there's not super clear repercussions. Also, like another example, and I don't want to give them all away, but these are some original ones that stick in my mind. During the winter, my wells had dried up, and at the end of a full year cycle, you get like a report card. It feels quite impactful, actually, but all your resources will potentially refresh once you come out of winter. So you will drain wells, but then they will be refreshed X percentage depending on the precipitation or something like that. I can't remember specifically, but I digress. During the winter, I'd run out of water, I'd overcommitted. Essentially, we'd run out of water and I couldn't get any more. The villagers came to me and suggested, and this wasn't a building, this wasn't a tech or anything like that, but they put it to me that we could start using wood to charcoal and burn up some ice to generate some water to try and get through this winter, right? So I gave them the thumbs up, and it kind of implemented this soft water generation mechanic that, like I said, wasn't on the books, didn't exist elsewhere beforehand. This is just a few of the things. Once you get through the first year or two, they start coming hard and fast, and you end up with a lot of these day-to-day holding council-like things. And in going full circle, when I was talking about the solar flares, the repercussions, where they're going to go, it gets put to you, hey, do you want to like stand up a sort of scientific society or whatever, like an actual designated group to explore the science or what little science we can do with sticks and stones for the next couple of years. And you can do that, and they demand a fair bit of resources, and you cordon that off to sort of explore that aspect, or you can just altogether say, no, we're more focused on surviving. So at the moment, it actually does seem to have impactful, interesting narrative choices, which is very distinctly different from the way that the king of all, who is Frostpunk, has done it before. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. All round, it's very solid, but again, being that it's early access, part of me is pumped that it's showing so much promise, but also a big part of me is, I'm going to put this back on the shelf. I'm going to give it, a couple of years, I suppose, in the boiler, or however long it takes, and then let's see what 1.0 looks like. So yeah, pleasantly surprised, I suppose. I wasn't expecting this to be bad, but I was kind of expecting it to be generic, and giving all the material out there, like the videos or trailers, what I looked at and what you probably looked at, I wouldn't begrudge you for coming to that same conclusion. But rest assured, this is actually one of the good ones already. So my God, 1.0 will be wild. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I will catch you guys on the next one.